Now, in the end, about 150 criminal defendants were indicted by the United States and referred to as members or associates of the Black Mafia Family, aka BMF, aka blowing money fast.
With 4 new big arrests, Atlanta police believe they have just about shut down the so-called Black Mafia Family. And as our Julia Harding reports, these suspects were hiding out in one of the city's most popular areas.
U.S. Marshals say this man, one of Atlanta Police Department's top 10 most wanted and a member of an organized crime family, is now behind bars. U.S. Marshals tell me they arrested 37-year-old Ernest Dennis and 40-year-old Jonathan Manigo here outside a Buckhead hotel. Both men, they say, are members of the so-called Black Mafia Family, or BMF.
Anyone tied to BMF typically has an extensive criminal history, so we consider them to be very violent.
Investigators say the organization BMF is heavily involved in drug trafficking and has been in Atlanta at least since 2004. At that time, federal agents seized this limo with secret compartments that had almost $1 million hidden inside. Within the last 2 weeks, U.S. Marshals and Atlanta police have arrested a total of 4 BMF members, including these 2 men, Ricardo Webb and Tovis Raines.
We know that they don't have the level of contacts or the drug contacts or the access to drugs and money and other people the way that they had before. So we're definitely slowly destroying their organization.
An organization that at one time claimed to rule Atlanta. Now agents say that's no longer the case. In Atlanta, Julia Harding, Fox 5 News.
BMF itself as a name didn't coalesce until Meech started pushing Blue and Young Jeezy as rappers, and then Terry, after the fallout, started calling his side 263, which is the alphanumeric code on a telephone pad for BMF. But let's take a look around the country at the United States versus BMF. 6 cities where the feds used the Black Mafia Family name in their prosecution of yayo and money laundering conspiracies. Louisville, home of Pink Suit Cuz, better known as Tory Sims, and 4 other guys. Evidence at the trial included intercepted phone conversations of Sims, known as Pink Suit Cuz, ordering cocaine from Terry Flannery. That particular shipment of 10 bricks was seized by the DEA just outside of Detroit. And from July through August of 2004, a wiretap of Tory Sims' telephone by DEA Louisville intercepted thousands of convos between Sims and others arranging for the sale and distro of yams in the Louisville area. Witness testimony during the trial indicated that Sims received and distributed hundreds of bricks of BMF cocaine in the Louisville market. Well-known BMF members turned federal informants Charles Parson and Arnold A.R. Boyd testified against Sims during his 4-day trial. Parsons and Boyd were 2 of Terry's key guys, and they ended up being 2 key informants. Orlando, Florida. 2 BMF convictions down there. The main targets of this were William Doc Marshall, a woman named Doreen Fiddler, Mark Whaley, and another woman. I think Marshall got his convictions aren't listed. He was, of course, Doc, one of the main informants. Doc supposedly got himself on the police radar by shooting someone who was breaking into his Atlanta condo. And when the police came, he hid several bricks of cocaine he had in his residence, fraudulently obtained cars. So he was associated with the 404 Motorsports, and so was the guy Mark Whaley out of the Orlando indictment. Whaley leased high-end vehicles to BMF members. Marshall had like a brokerage service. So when the government put Doc Marshall on the stand as a witness, he testified that at that moment in time, he was incarcerated for distributing cocaine and for money laundering. And he claimed to have been the accountant for everybody, but I think the feds fed him some info. So 1 woman and Mark Whaley got convicted down in Orlando for BMF. So we have 4 people in Louisville, 2 in Orlando. Now here's a picture of Doc Marshall's brother, Kareem Shear, just to give you a feel for the collateral damage criminal cases, and especially one this big, has on everybody's family. So when you're making money and you're pulling people in like you're doing them a favor, are you really? This guy, Kareem Sheard, did 3 years in federal prison for being in charge of obtaining, creating false identification, 250 of them for different BMF associates, renting mansions and fake names, providing fake proof of income, and etc. to lease cars. He's out of prison now. He lives in Patterson, New Jersey, in a basement apartment where junkies urinate on the window while he tries to sleep. Who knows where his brother Doc is now? He was putting in witness protection. He's somebody definitely don't want to be showing his face, but he certainly isn't looking out for the younger brother, Kareem Sheard, who he presented as an opportunity, and he had probably a few years of fun, but ruined his life like a lot of other people's. Detroit, the main indictment, October 2005, 30 people. This is the indictment that saw the Flannery brothers themselves get charged and eventually take plea agreements where they subjected themselves to a sentence in the 20 to 30 year range. And of course, they both got the top end of that range in 30 years. BMF associates in Detroit also got hit with money laundering, buying people's winning lottery tickets for cash and then claiming them for themselves, paying taxes on the money. So of course then it would be clean. Then there was a superseding indictment of another 19 people, which brought at that time the total number of people indicted up to 49. So again, a second indictment in Detroit, and this included Jacob the jeweler, 30 pieces of jewelry, 13 homes, 35 vehicles, including limos, BMWs, Range Rovers, Aston Martins, Bentleys, bank accounts, and that's where the money judgment of $270 million was entered, which was some sort of calculation of money made. I really don't know where that number came from. Detroit superseding indictment, you had Jacob the jeweler and these 30 pieces of jewelry. So what's the story with that? Well, that's where Kim Kardashian comes in. Her very first husband, Damon Thomas, Southwest, he got pulled over outside of St. Louis. He had $5 million in jewelry. Jacob the jeweler pled guilty to letting Damon Thomas be the straw man to, supposedly because he had the income to account for it. I don't know what hit songs he made. And he bought Terry $5 million worth of jewelry, put it in his name, but then he gave it all up pretty quickly. I think this is what led Kim Kardashian to divorce Damon Thomas. She had used him up for all she could and moved on. And speaking of St. Louis, that was BMF's first big hub outside of Detroit. 6 months before the Detroit indictment, Deron Gatling of St. Louis was indicted, and he was found in Chamblee, Georgia, hiding behind insulation in the attic of a house where a lot of gambling was going on. And at that moment, well, they went in the house and they were searching, and they had located him. Bop, bop. Shots were fired at the task force. The task force didn't flee, and they ended up getting Mr. Gatling, and they traced the last number in Mr. Gatling's phone to one Jerry Davis. And if you watched my Tremaine Kiki Graham story, Jerry Davis was the leader of the so-called Sin City Mafia, which operated right across the Georgia-Alabama border in Phoenix City, Alabama. Police allege that Gatling called Jerry Davis to fire the shots at the house. Of course, they were never charged with that, so. Jerry Davis got indicted out of Columbia, South Carolina. So let's go down there where there was another set of people indicted for the BMF case, primarily Tremaine Kiki Graham.